Welcome to my channel, Catalyst Made Web Academy, where we ignite understanding and make learning easier. In our today's class, we'll be talking about the introduction to endocrinology. As we all know, the endocrinology is very important in our system in the sense that all the physiological systems or all the physiological activities that occurs in our body, they majorly depends on two systems, the endocrine system and the nervous system. The endocrine system carries out its function or controls the physiological activities of our body by the use of a chemical messengers, whereby the nervous system uses or control the physiological activities of our body through electrical substances or the electrical signals. Having said, we said the physiological activities of our body are majorly carried out by two major systems in our body: the nervous system and the endocrine system. Nervous system carrying out its activity through the electrical, while the endocrine system carrying out activity or control the activity through the use of chemical messengers. That is a brief introduction. We should know that there are different cells in our body, and for them to function normally or for them to function in a coordinate order, they must communicate with one another. Means of communication between the cell is what refers to as cell signaling. Cell signaling or cells to cell signal is very important in the sense that it will enable cells to coordinate themselves and function in a normal condition. Cell signaling is majorly brought about by either through substances, either through electrical substance, either through electrical or through chemicals. Affirmation for electrical is majorly by nervous system, while the chemical is through endocrine system. Chemical messengers are the substances that brought about the cell signal using endocrine system. The chemical messengers are of different types. There are endocrine messengers, there are paracrine messengers, autocrine messengers, and neurocrine messengers. These are the major chemical messengers that we have, which carry out a chemical or response or chemical or signals. The endocrine messengers are also called the classical of because they are the one that are being produced from the endocrine gland. And we know that the endocrine gland are the toxidizing gland. Example, here we can be having growth hormone, whereby the paracrine messengers, they are local what hormones. Here, it reaches the target cell through the interstitial fluid or through the gap junction. They call them local messengers or endocrine messengers. Example, you can be having the histamine in this class. Autocrine messenger, from the name auto, this chemical messenger that you want now control the cells that secretes them. Whereby the neurocrine messenger, they are the chemical messenger that are being secreted, and they are of two types. There is neuro hormones and neurotransmitters. These are the two major types of the neurocrine messenger that we have. The neuro hormone that are secreted from the nerve cell, whereby the neurotransmitter, that is an indigenous molecule responsible for the transmission of information from one nerve cell to another cell or to another tissue or the gland. We say that for the normal physiological activity of our body, there must be a cell signaling. Talking about the cell signaling that is either through chemical means or through electrical means. Now, based on the electrical means, we've already talked that there are different chemical means that carry it out based on the chemical means. Now, we restrict ourselves to only endocrine messengers. Now, the endocrine messengers are those the messengers, or they are the chemical substances that are secreted by the endocrine gland, bringing about physiological response in our body. That is what brings us to endocrinology. Now, endocrine system is a system or endocrine gland at the gland that are responsible for the secretion of hormones. That is the chemical messenger in our body. I would also know that the endocrine gland, they are ductless gland. All their secretion move directly into the blood without any duct connected. That is one of the differences between the endocrine gland and exocrine gland. The endocrine gland is a ductless gland, there's no duct, while in the exocrine gland, there is a duct that is connected. Endocrine gland is the gland that is responsible for the production of hormones. Now, what are these hormones? Hormones, they are chemical messengers secreted from the endocrine gland and they carry signals from the gland from where they are being secreted into the target cell for the normal physiological activity of that target cells. Now, there are different types of hormones based on their chemical nature. Based on the chemical nature, there are majorly three types of hormone. There are majorly three types of hormone. There are protein hormones, there are steroid hormone, and amino acid derivatives. Hormones. Based on the chemical nature of the hormone, these are the three types of the hormone we have: the protein hormone, the steroid hormone, and the amino acid derivative. The protein hormone, they usually include, they are proteinous in nature, and they usually include all the placenta, the thyroid, the parathyroid, and pituitary hormones. Whereby the steroid hormone, they are the hormone of the adrenal cortex. They are majorly derived from cholesterol or its derivatives. Amino acid derivative hormone, example is tyrosine, which serve as a precursor for thyroid hormone. There is also tryptophan as an amino acid, which serve as a precursor for melatonin. Now, based on the chemical natures of the hormone, we say there are protein hormones, steroid hormone, and amino acid derivatives. Protein hormones are the hormones for all the pituitary gland, the placenta, the parathyroid, and the parathyroid. Whereby the steroid hormone are the hormones of the adrenal cortex. Amino acid derivative hormone like tyrosine, made up of serve as precursor for the thyroid gland. Tryptophan serve as the precursor for melatonin. Now, how does this hormone bring out the action? We should know that the hormone cannot just come into the target cell and then carry out the physiological response in that target cell. They need what we refer to as receptors. And what are the receptors? The receptors are the protein molecule that are situated on the target cells. The major function of the receptor is that they will recognize the incoming hormone. And we should know that each hormone, they have a specific receptor that can recognize them. Now, the situation of the receptor varies in the target cells. There are some receptors that are present in the cytoplasm. There are some receptors that are present in the cell membrane. There are some receptors that are present on the nucleus. Now, this diagram here will tell us the situations of the hormone receptors. As you can see, this is our cell membrane. Our cell membrane we take here as our cytoplasm and here as our nucleus. Now, these receptors that are present in the cell membrane, they are called membrane receptors. Membrane receptors. And the membrane receptors are majorly for the protein hormones and adrenal medullary hormone, that is catecholamines. So the membrane receptors are majorly the receptors for protein and adrenal medullary hormones. The protein hormones and terminal medullary hormone, they have their receptors situated in the cell membrane. Now, for the cytoplasm, the receptors of the hormone that are in cytoplasm are the steroid hormones. Steroid hormones have their receptors situated in the cytoplasm, whereby the thyroid hormones has their receptors situated on the nucleus. For the nucleus is the thyroid hormones have their, their receptors situated the in the nucleus. So these are the three places where the receptors are always located on the target cell, either in the cytoplasm, or in the cell membrane or on the nucleus. We said the protein hormones and catecholamines. The steroid hormones have their receptors then for the nucleus is the thyroid hormones. These are the locations of the receptors on the target cells. Now, how does the hormone carry out its physiological action, or how does it carry out the action on the target cells? Now, we should know that after hormone is being bounded to the receptor, it will form what they call hormone receptor complex. Hormone receptor complex. It is this hormone receptor complex that will now initiate or carry out the action of that hormone. Now, there are various mechanisms in which the hormone carry out their responses. That is mode of actions of hormones. There are various mechanisms in which the hormone carry out their responses. That is the mode of the action of hormone. One is either they alter the permeability of the cell membrane, alter permeability of cell membrane, or they activate intracellular enzymes, or they act on the genes. These are the various methods in or the mode of action of the hormone. Act either they alter the permeability of the cell membrane, they activate intracellular enzymes, or they act on the gene. Altering the permeability of the cell membrane is majorly carried out by the neurotransmitters. Neurotransmitters carry out their action majorly by altering the permeability of the cell membrane. Activating intracellular enzymes is the mechanism through which the protein hormones carry out their action. This the mode of the action of the protein hormone is majorly through activating intracellular enzymes, whereby acting on the gene, the steroid hormone and the thyroid hormone, both of them act on the gene for them to carry out their physiological response on the target cells. Now, this is the mode of action of the steroid hormone. It's only the same thing as that of the thyroid as well. Now, from here, we'll be having hormone plus our receptor. Hormone plus receptor will give us hormone receptor complex. Now, we've already said that the steroid hormone, their receptors are in the cytoplasm, while by that of the thyroid hormone, their receptor is in the nucleus. Now, let's assume this is our DNA. The mode of action of both these two hormones, the steroid and the thyroid hormone, is that they are acting on the gene. Now, the hormone receptor complex will now bind to the DNA. After binding to the DNA, it will now increase the transcription of DNA into the messenger RNA. From pre-messenger RNA into messenger RNA. Now, this messenger RNA will now go out from the nucleus. It will now enter the ribosome. From the ribosome, it will initiate or what? Lead to the production of many proteins. Now, the proteins produced by the ribosome will be the one that will carry out the physiological response of that hormone on that particular target cells. So this is how the steroid and the thyroid hormone carry out their response on the target cell. Hormone receptor complex will bind to the DNA, increase the transcription, and form messenger RNA. Messenger RNA will now enter the ribosome, lead to the production of the protein that will carry out the action of that hormone on that target cells. Those are for the hormones that are acting on the gene. Now, for the protein hormones and the catecholamines, we've already said that those hormones, their receptors is in the cell membrane, and they carry out their action mostly through activating intracellular enzymes. Now, we should know that in protein hormones, there are what we call first messenger and the second messenger. The first messenger are the hormone itself that is coming, then binding of the hormone to the receptor will now activate another enzyme that will lead to the formation of second messenger. This second messenger are the ones that will bring about the action of the protein hormones and some hormones of the adrenal medullary glands. Now, this is a receptor. This is a receptor. Now, there is what they also call as G protein. G proteins. Now, these G proteins, they are membrane proteins that are present on the inner surface of the cell membrane. Once this protein is being activated, it will be the one that will carry out the action of that hormone on that target cells. And the G1 protein is being activated by hormone receptor complex. Now, we should know that the G protein are made up of 3 units. There is after alpha unit, beta unit, and the gamma unit part of the G protein, also called the trimetric unit. Now, we should know that the alpha unit is the one that carries out most of the biological action of the G protein. The entire display here is this our G protein. This is the beta unit, the gamma, and the alpha unit. We say that the alpha unit is one that carries out most of the physiological response, or is one that carries out most of the biological action of the G protein. These are the receptors that are situated on the cell membrane. This is also the receptors. These are hormones. Now, you can see that at this A and B here, the hormone have not been binded to the receptor. But in B, our hormone have already bound to the receptor. Now, this alpha unit of G protein will bind to another substance called guanosine diphosphate, GDP. This alpha to form alpha guanosine diphosphate unit. Once the G protein is in inactive form, they will become together. Both the beta, the gamma dimer, and the alpha GDP unit, they will become attracted to each other. But once the hormone is attached to the receptor and form hormone receptor complex, the hormone receptor complex will detach beta and gamma dimer from alpha GDP. So here, since the hormone receptor are being formed, it will activate this G protein, then thereby separating beta and the gamma unit. Here is beta, here is the gamma. Then it has already separated alpha GDP from it. And we also know that after the hormone receptor is being formed, the GDP will be replaced with GTP, guanosine triphosphate. So the alpha unit will replace GDP with GTP. That is alpha guanosine triphosphate. Now, the alpha guanosine triphosphate together with beta and gamma dimer, they will activate an enzyme which we call adenine cyclase. Adenine cyclase. The the gamma, the alpha GTP together with beta and gamma dimer, they will activate an enzyme called adenine cyclase. This adenine cyclase is usually located on the cell membrane, but some of them protrude out into the cytoplasm, where you convert the ATP of the cytoplasm into CAMP, cyclic adenine monophosphate. Now, this cyclic adenine monophosphate serves as the second messenger for most of the protein hormones. This cyclic adenine monophosphate will now act on a protein again. Example, will now act on an enzyme such as the protein kinase A. After acting on the protein kinase A, then you should now move to the response on the target cells. Now, this is the mode of action of the protein hormone receptor complex activates G protein. Activated G protein will act on adenine cyclase. Adenine cyclase will convert the ATP into CAM or CAM, cyclic adenine monophosphate. Cyclic adenine monophosphate will act on an enzyme, protein kinase A, which will bring about the response of the hormone on that target cells. So now, there are different type of secondary messengers again. It's not only CAM. Other ones will also have inositol triphosphate and DAG, diacylglycerol. We can also have calcium ion camotley or calcium ion triple C. We can also have arachidonic acid pathway. And lastly, we can also have what is called cyclic guanosine adenine monophosphate. We can have this one too. So these are the major second messengers for the protein hormone. The first one is CAM. Then there is IPD, inositol triphosphate, and now this inositol triphosphate activated G protein will act on a phospholipase, thereby converting phosphatidylcholine inositol triphosphate into either inositol triphosphate or diacylglycerol. Now this phosphatidyl inositol triphosphate and diacylglycerol, they will now act on an enzyme which is called protein kinase C, thereby leading to the influence of the calcium, which will bring about the physiological response of that hormone on that target cells. Now, for the calcium ion and camology, we should know that most of the hormones they function by increasing the influence of the calcium. Now, activated G protein again will activate the calcium ions channel together with the protein called another substance called camotonin. Together, they will now activate what we refer to as another enzyme known as myosin kinase. Calcium ion camotonin, they will activate enzyme known as myosin kinase. This myosin kinase will now put the one that will initiate the process, which will lead to a muscular contraction. We should know that the camotonin is present in the smooth tissues, whereby calcium ion and triple C they are present in skeletal. They are present in skeletal tissue. The mode of action is the same thing, just like the calcium carbonate take place in smooth tissue, whereby the calcium ion and triple C they take place in skeletal tissue. Now, for the cyclic guanosine monophosphate, its mode of action is almost the same thing as that of cycling adenine monophosphate. It also acts by activating the protein kinase A, just like the camp. Anhedonic pathway activated the protein will also activate some enzyme which will lead to the production of arachidonic acid. Now, this arachidonic will not lead to activate another enzyme which will lead to the production of some certain substances. It is in this place where you can be having something like thromboxans, leukotrienes, etc. Now, so this is the mechanism through which hormone carry out their action on the target cells. Having know what hormones are, their location of receptors, and their mode of action, we should know that the hormones, too much of everything is very bad. We should know that the hormones are being regulated in our body. And the regulation of the hormone in our body is majorly carried out by two mechanisms, either hypothalamic control or the feedback mechanisms. Hypothalamic control or by feedback mechanisms. Now, this hypothalamic control, it majorly controls the hormones of the pituitary gland, and then the hormones of the pituitary gland controls other glands as well. The hypothalamic controls hormones by two ways. It's either is releasing inhibitory substance or releasing substances. Whereby for the feedback of mechanism is being controlled by two major ways. It's either positive feedback mechanism or negative feedback mechanisms. Positive feedback mechanism is just a kind of a control in which a stimulus will increase the production of that hormone till the end of the event. While by some negative feedback, increase in the stimulus decreases the secretion of the hormone, whereas a decrease in the number of that of the hormone or a stimulus will decrease the formation of the hormone. Just vice versa. There are some hormones that also undergo what they call short-loop feedback. This short-loop feedback is just a phenomenon in which the increase in the hormone itself decreases the secretion for that hormone. Again, example of the hormone that we'll be seeing in this one is we can be having growth hormone. They exhibit short-loop feedback mechanisms. Okay, now functions of the endocrine gland in general. We say that they are very important in our body, yes. In conjunction with nervous system, they control most of the physiological activities in our body. Now, what are the general functions of this endocrine gland? The general functions of this endocrine gland are: one, the endocrine gland they carry their function to the growth and development. They also helps in reproduction and cellular differentiation. They helps as well as in adapting to the new environment. And one of the most important functions of this thing is that they helps in the regulation of our body fluid composition as well. Now, there are various endocrine glands in our body. Like we can be having the pituitary gland. There is parathyroid as well as thyroid. There is pancreas. We should know that pancreas is an organ with two functions. The pancreas can act as an exocrine. It can also act as an endocrine. Then there is an adrenal gland situated on top of the kidney. There are gonads. These two constitute gonad. The ovary and the testes. Both of them constitute colon. So these are the major glands that we have in our body. We've come to the end of today's class. Thanks for staying throughout. If you're enjoying this content, please kindly subscribe, like, comment, and share. Thanks.